Tracy here. Let me introduce you to Jerry Fee. Jerry is a unique artist. He has a wide spectrum of talents and abilities. His story over the last several years is one of complete surrender to the Lord, and one that desires to seek after the Lord, one that desires to move as the Lord moves in him. And his story is quite remarkable. Yet the heart of the story is really the same for each of us. It's this idea of surrender, of humility, and walking in obedience, regardless of what those around us might say or think or do, or how they may act or respond to our seeking the Lord. At His Way Worship, we've said this over and over again. We don't believe worship is about a particular type of music or even about music in itself. Worship, as described in the Bible, it's a spiritual act that we do by sacrificing and giving our lives to the Lord. And that journey of sacrifice and that journey of surrendering over things to God is our ultimate act of worship to Him. And what gets in the way of that is ourselves, right? It's us, it's our desires, it's our wants, it's the things that we chase after in this life. It could be people, it could be relationships, it could be things that we've gotten used to, material things, financial things, relational things that we've gotten used to and we may not want to give up, but we are the ones that get in the way of that. This flesh, this old carnal self that just wants what it wants. And so no one's unique in that way. We're all prone to the same type of selfish sins and the same boundaries or same walls that keep us separated from God and entering into a real life of worship with God. We express our worship in very individual ways through our personalities, and that's what's so wonderful about it. But at the heart of it all is a heart surrender, is a sacrifice, and it's the same desire that God puts in us to chase after Him and to want more of Him, even at the cost of laying down our lives and the things that we've come to know so comfortably. Jerry's story shares this exact thing. And through his individual personality and the way that he sees his art, he's expressing all those same deep things of surrender and sacrifice and chasing after God. I know you're going to be blessed by this interview, and I know you're going to be blessed and enjoy Jerry's music. And once again, here's Jerry Fee.
There you go. Ready, Betty?
Yeah, man. Give it a go.
All right. Jerry, thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to do this. Looking forward to introducing you to the His Way Worship audience for a while now. And it's a privilege to be able to sit here and talk to you about things and be able to share what's been going on with you for the last year. We met a couple times. We've met a couple times down in Tennessee over the last year. And it wasn't until more recently where I kind of feel like God made an appointment for us. That one night we were at Centricity Music. It was a big dinner. There was a lot of kind of big wigs around and mingling and publishers and producers. But for some reason, you and I spent most of that time talking. And I think that's what it needed to be that night. And I know I enjoyed it a lot, and I really resonated with your story you were sharing with me about just kind of how God had turned your life upside down and was changing the direction of things, and what that looked like, what that felt like, how it was like for you and your family. And I was just enthralled with the story. And I really think that was just a moment that God wanted me to be a part of, for sure. And I was real thankful that you were willing to share all of that. This album that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight really came out of that experience. And a lot of the songs on there came out of that time of you growing and searching and seeking and not necessarily knowing what was going to be happening the very next day, or let alone the next week. Yep. And this process that God took you through of utterly changing what was going on in your life. Jerry, when I think of you as an artist, I really kind of think of you more as like this wide spectrum artist. You're more than just music. You're video, your audio, you do your own recordings, you do photography. And so God has really gifted you in a lot of different ways. You're currently working in Nashville right now. You're doing a lot of different types of jobs. I know some of the things you're doing, but you seem to be on the go all the time, meeting very influential people out there in the industry. So I want to kind of get my first question, which is, what are you up to right now? What's been going on in your life? And where you are, what's going on with your family. Tell us a little bit about your family and what you're doing out there.
Sure, man. Well, thanks for having me on this. And it was cool. First of all, to spend more time chatting with you that night. Like I told you then, I kind of felt bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing your time and, like talking your ear off, man. But same way, like I told you, like, I don't feel it has to be the right open door for me to dive in as deep as I did on that story with someone, and it felt like the right time to me too. But at the same time, I was aware of like, I don't want to like monopolize your time, man. And yeah, but it was good. And I just felt that it was something you probably needed to hear too, because I felt like that was
amen.
Good. So it was good, man. I appreciate you connecting with me and having me a part of this with His Way. And as far as what I'm doing right now in the Nashville area and with my family and everything is, I am doing kind of all things arts. And so the main things of what I do in that is the video production work, is a lot of the editing. I do promotional videos for people, that kind of work. And then just have been songwriting and co-writing as much as I can balance out with all of that other stuff and family life and trying to be available and around to spend time with my family and my kids and my wife. And it doesn't feel as tiring as it might sound, because I think I'm in a place of being really grateful that I get to utilize a lot of things where I felt like they were dormant for a long time.
Yeah. Well, so you've been in Nashville now not even a year?
Actually, so I came a year ago in March, actually the middle, like March 12th or 13th. And I came out ahead of my wife and 2 kids.
Okay.
So they have not quite been here a year yet. That'll be like early June, a year for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know quite a bit of the story from what you've shared, and I know there's probably even a lot more. When God is moving in things, it's always helpful. I wish I had documented more the last 15 years of my life, just to be able to remember all the stories where God intervened and what God was doing, and being able to look back and say, God, you really never left me. You always, always saw me through. It may have felt like the rug was pulled out. It may have felt like I was on shifting sand at times and I couldn't see past my hand, but there's never a situation I was in that you didn't show up. And I wish I had kept track of all those stories. And you'd think that even nowadays I would remember to do that more, but I don't. But you had quite a story to get where you are today. I want you to feel free to kind of share as much or little of that as you would like.
Sure, man. Thank you for letting me. It's definitely a pretty incredible journey, and I mean incredible in every facet of that term. Wild and amazing. And all that stuff. So, we've been in Boise, Idaho area for the last 10 plus years, and led worship at a couple different churches in that time frame. Had a couple other different jobs, all while pursuing the songwriting and trying to learn the best I could when I wasn't in a community that really did it. And I was thankful to get to do some touring out of that area for a few years before coming here. And that actually developed, not many, but developed a couple different relationships here in the Nashville area. And 2 years ago this summer, I was just in a time of feeling like there was not really certain of what it was, but like something else felt like it was on the horizon, and talked about some things with my wife one night without intending on it. We didn't have the plan in our minds to go have a conversation about things, it just kind of came up in a conversation. And I remember just saying, it's a shame that we're not in a place right now where what I feel like God's called me to do and gifted me with can't be utilized more, in a place like Nashville, And I remember as soon as I said that out of my mouth, it felt like there was a weight to that word. And it was over a series of being on tour for the following month, right after that conversation, where I could not get past the impression that there was something in that phrase that I said that either I just came into alignment with God's timing and he woke me up to it. I don't know how you want to look at it, but it was one of those, like, you know, he woke up my spirit at the right time or whatever it was. And I couldn't shake that thought about it. And so I would just go to bed praying about just, God, you know, I give this thought over to you. Why ever this, it feels like there's something here that's aggravating me, almost like it's messing with me. It's causing me to be unsettled and feel strange. And I don't know what this is, but, you know, I just kind of kept surrendering that thought, you know, and just saying, if it's not you, then please, you know, help me get past this thought. If it is you, then I don't know what you're doing, but, you know, I'll keep going down that path if it's you. And so there was a definite reality of something changing coming. I mean, became very clear very quickly. And so for probably a good 4 months, I just felt like God was like, I want you praying about this harder than you've ever prayed about anything in your life before, more consistently, more in depth. I want you praying over your family, over my will for you, everything. I want you diving in. And I just remember being on my face, on my bed, on my floor, many times, just going, what are you doing? Something that's so unsettled in me. I almost can't deal with it. And I really felt him saying many, many times over, just, I'm about to undo everything you know here, and I want you to go there, and I want you to trust that I have a next thing for you, and it's going to be in all the areas I've called you and gifted you to, and you're just going to take off and go do it. I just want you to say yes. I just want you to go, and I want you to trust me for whatever's right in front of you. And I promise you I will take care of it, and you have no idea what I'm capable of, so just go. That's what I kept hearing, like, over and over and over and over. And it was so convicting and so strong that despite a lot of other things looking unsettled and not being certain, for me, it came down to, that was so certain for me. I was more afraid to not dive into that and lean into that, knowing the God that I know, his provision, his wisdom, you know, that he can see on the other side of all this. And if he's for some reason choosing to tell me before it comes, then clearly he knows I'll be all right on the other side. I don't know what that means, but I can trust enough to know, you know, thankfully I've seen enough of him to know that it'll be okay. And every step along the way through, you know, what he showed me all of like 2017 for me, he kind of showed me as growing pains of like birth pains, actually.
Yeah.
Of there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of uncomfortable things that have to happen in order for a new life to be birthed and a new thing to happen that didn't exist before. And so that's kind of what brought us here. And ever since then, you know, it didn't instantly turn into easy sailing, you know.
You know, it lots of times we would love to think that when God has a plan, and he's working it out through our lives, it wouldn't be so it wouldn't have to be so messy, it would seem. But there's something about that process that he really involves us in that process, and it's a constant walk of faith. I mean, everything I'm hearing you say is that it's that, hey man, I'm questioning this. I'm trying to have that accountability around me, because Lord, I'm really seeking you in this. It would have been so much nicer if you could have just said it right here, and then I would have had no problem going and doing it. But there's something in that course and of events that takes place, and you know, we're always a different creature on the other side of something. He's always doing something new in us. And that whole time period there for you, where are you now? What are the things about you that he took you through? It's like, look, I'm different now. I'm you know, I'm at a different place than I was even 8-9 months ago in this process. You know, he got me here. That's just amazing. That's a miracle in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
But the process of that, what has that process done for you?
Yeah, man. I think part of it, to be honest with you, again, because it's not all clean and not all perfect, right? And in our perspective. So some of it is still unfolding to this very day, and tomorrow will be unfolding even further. But in that, I've learned a lot about myself that had to die. things that I felt called to and knew that I was supposed to be doing, almost to the response of, if God has asked you to do something and you're not responding well to that and not really giving your everything to that, there was a lot of things in me that was, I was seeking other things, right? Or I was spending time doing other things that weren't as important. And being around people who in this music community who are excellent, man, who are so talented, exposed to me how much harder I needed to be working, right, on that. And I look at it as a not to earn God's favor, not to make him love me anymore. Has nothing to do with that. But even before coming here, he started kind of revealing to me more of the, you know, the parable of the talents, you know. So maybe I was given one talent and this guy was given 3, she was given 5. He asked me to go do something with it. And it's not so he'll love me more, but it's because he wants his kingdom to grow. I think sometimes I, out of lack of knowing what to do with it, would bury it. So at least I could hold on to it, you know, or I would blame other people that, well, you messed up my crop, man. It couldn't grow because you messed it up, you know. And there's just there's a lot of things that he's had to show me through this journey of like, this part's on you. This part has been on you. I'm giving you another opportunity to do something with it. Are you going to do something with it? You know, but on my journey here, literally physically my journey here, he brought me back to the singular moment of why I first realized I wanted to write songs. And not quite immediately. It took a little bit for me to kind of process that and ask him about that. But it basically caused me to refocus in order to realize what I needed to do to go after that passion again. Right. And so also with coming here without knowing exactly what he was going to do and how he was going to move things and open things up, it's brought me here with that servant's heart of going, I'm just here with open hands, willing to serve. And I don't really have an agenda to push. And so there's just been a lot of learning by such great people that I've been around, a lot of humbling myself and just going, this thing I'm a part of may never be about me at all. And I'm okay with that. What if I'm just here to serve? What if that's all it is? So I think for me, it's just it's that continual thing of like, as a songwriter, I feel more intentional and more purposeful about what I want to say, about why I have to write songs and who I want that to impact and how I want it to impact them. And man, that helped tremendously, like on writing this new project. And I just feel like it's more refined, more defined. And for a lot of years I struggled. I felt like I kind of lost that. I kind of lost that, you know, lost the plot, you know. And he definitely brought me back to it, squared right up with it. And but I think it's just a lot of things I'm doing right now is going, God, whatever you're putting in front of me, I'm going all in on. I'm giving it my all. I'm trying, and I'm going to fail some days, but you know, I just want to give it my all and kind of honor you with this opportunity. You know, just for whatever reason you're doing this, I want to honor you with it. And yeah.
Well, Jerry, I'm gonna in a little bit want to get into the album a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit just about your musical background? Like where'd you get started? You know, what part of your testimony with the Lord, and give us a little bit about your past in that regard.
Sure. So, you know, I grew up around Christians who, number one, as far as just from my faith standpoint, I felt like showed me Jesus from a young age, to where miracles and loving people well and loving people with no agenda was a regular occurrence in my household. Again, far from perfect people, but I felt like I was raised around people who God and Christ were not a religion to. It was reality. And so I was super thankful for that, you know, and I had lots of friends who didn't have that. So I saw the contrast at a very young age. And I remember I literally kind of felt like if I was to not choose this path, it would be more because I don't like it than I don't believe it. because I've seen too much and I've experienced too much of his graciousness and his awesomeness since I was a little kid to walk away. And so I'm really thankful for that heritage to be shown that. And my journey from third grade through almost the end of high school was, while I was around music, I enjoyed music. I actually did do visual arts as well. I did draw, I did do things like that. To me, all that stuff was like, well, it's fun, but like my pursuit, you talk about like what I was after was baseball. That was completely like what my joy was, my focus, my attention. I would go home every day and practice for like an hour or two, even if no one made me. I thought till I was probably 17 that my path was going to be playing professional baseball. I really did. Like that's what I was working hard toward and loved, and just thought it was a possibility, and God had other plans, and he brought about this opportunity to start singing in a choir my senior year of high school, which I was just a foreign thing to me. It's not something I would have done. And I had some good friends that I had just developed in this small high school in Arkansas after moving there. I reluctantly, after they bothered me a few times, I reluctantly went down and went to the choir room with them and auditioned. That was during that same time that I'm like, God, I feel like you're asking me to ask you what else to do. And we started this journey down this choir path, and I was like, oh my word, I love this. Like it was like uncovering something I didn't know was buried, in my own yard. I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. That some of my best friendships came out of that time. And I didn't realize how much I really enjoyed singing like that. And so by the time I got to college that next year, I had this like burning desire to write songs, and I didn't have any structure. I had like no skill set, no one around me doing it at a high level. And I just kind of started exploring basically. But yeah, I knew that I had to write songs, and I wanted to reach people through music the way when I was just a fan of music and worshiping through music, the way it would touch my heart and move me. I feel like God has this way with me of exposing nothing else beneath me but his path through very difficult circumstances, and then saying, go down this path, and that's been a pattern I've seen time and time again with him in my life. And that's led me to where I'm at right now. And
oh man,
I could probably go another hour on that and bore everybody, but I won't do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I look at the reviews of your album, which are great, by the way, people are just really digging this album. They're loving it. And it's a lot of fun to listen to for sure. And, but one of the things you see a lot is people, when they describe your music, there's usually at least always 3 different genres they try to blend together to explain it, like hip hop or retro 80s or all these other things. So how would you kind of define yourself, and how did you come up with your sound? What are the influences of how you play and how you write?
Yeah, man, my sound has come through years of failure, meaning trying stuff and failing, going, my voice doesn't do that, but always pushing the envelope and learning. And I tried the band route from early on. I tried being in a band because I knew I had a lot of weaknesses, because I didn't start till I was, over 20. And I knew that I had a lot of weaknesses coming into it. And so I loved the camaraderie of a band. So it wasn't just all as a crutch, but part of it was as a crutch to go, I'm not a great guitar player. I need someone around me who can help take these skeletons that I come up with of ideas and develop it. And I kept trying to create bands, and I kept running into obstacles so many times with that kind of stuff, to where it came down to it just being me out of necessity. It wasn't out of any other reason. And, so then I went, well, what do I do? Like, if it's just me, what do I do? I still didn't know. So I was like, well, I'm going to start with what music just makes me smile. What music like always is like something when I hear it on the radio or a playlist or, whatever, every time it just puts me in a good place. A lot of 80s, pop synth pop, Brit rock, and the early 90s, pop and rock, and whether that was Christian stuff or mainstream, whatever, but a little bit of everything. And I've always liked everything from pretty hard rock, with little hints toward metal without fully going that way, to hip hop, to blues, to straight up bubblegummy pop, to dance stuff. I've always liked a little bit of it. Like, I've never had this like, well, I only listen to this type of music, and if it identifies with who I am as a person and makes me feel good, I'm in. So it took me a few years of doing the solo thing to start to learn how I express all that. And finally, I kind of had to surrender to, I am a little bit of all that's influenced me. And even if that makes me a little bit out on the fringe, I'm going to live out on that fringe. And I just went back to listening to songs and artists that made me feel great again, right? Before I thought about trying to recreate it, before I thought about, well, what do? I just want to have fun with it. So I started by just listening to that stuff more in depth and going, what is it that I love about that? And what is it I can bring into my own version with, modern production techniques and modern sounds, but still do those things from 20, 30 years ago that just made me feel good inside, and that's kind of where I've ended up where I'm at.
Well, the album really demonstrates so much of that. It's so varied, and the sound is just, to me, it's so unique. And I've just enjoyed listening to it actually a number of times.
Oh, thanks, man.
When we were first talking about you coming and being a part of things with His Way Worship and everything, one of your comments was, "Are you sure, man? Because my stuff's not really kind of like the normal traditional worship stuff." And I'm like, no, that's even better, man. That's kind of where the heart of all this is. And one of the real ideas behind His Way Worship is that I just think worship is really a bigger concept than most Christians probably recognize. It's usually, it tends to be what it is and how we grew up. But really the concept is so much different. And we're starting this series called Rediscovering Worship at His Way Worship that really talks about worship being a lifestyle. And so much of what we go through in life, especially when it comes to our journeys, like the journey you were sharing about, is a very similar road. And the Bible calls it, look, the road of life is a narrow road. And so it's narrow. It's kind of, we're all in this same place. We're all on this same road. And really, the journey takes each of us through. It looks different for all of us, and the experiences, and it comes through us in the way that God made us individually. But really, what it comes down to is that journey brings each of us to a place of humility, of surrender, and of walking in faith. And that really doesn't change for the Christian. That's the road. And it's God bringing us to a place of humility where we put Him up, we lift Him up, we say, Father, I surrender to you, and now show me how to walk in faith. And that really seems to be what you're doing with this album. I love one of the quotes. You've got lots of reviews out there, and one of the quotes, I'm just going to read it. It's from godinterest.com. They said, none of these songs, speaking of your album, none of these songs particularly sound like overly in your face worship music. But if you actually pay attention to the lyrics, the meanings behind them are very clear. And they're so clear because it's the same journey God takes us on. It's humility, it's surrender, it's faith, it's all of the question, all of the doubt, all of the not knowing what to do all the time. It's the crying out to God, saying, Lord, I'm going to leap, and so you better be there. You got to catch me because I'm leaping. I've got no other way to go. There is no other way. There is no other truth. You're calling me, and I'm going to follow you. And so tell us kind of about the heart, before we get into the song you're going to sing, just the heart behind the album, why you created it.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I wasn't planning on an album because I had just done a full-length album a year ago and wasn't planning on it. I just planned, all I knew is when I got to Nashville, I was going to learn from the best that I could and start writing more than I ever had, and start just honing in on what I knew God put in my heart to write, and that's all I knew. And so I just started writing song after song after song, with co-writing with some people here in town, co-writing with a guy that's actually lives in Pittsburgh, of all crazy places. But I just went, I'm just going to write songs. I'm just going to write songs. And each song kept going, this is a whole statement. And all of this that you've been doing is a whole statement, and I need to share it as that. And so what's hilarious, and I haven't told you this, but the album that I released last year, I started writing before coming. The title of the album is Move.
Really?
And I said at the time, I feel like God was prepping me through the songs I was writing to prep me for this move.
Unbelievable.
And I didn't even know it. I didn't know that a lot of it I was speaking to myself almost in advance of like, I'm going to need this in 3 more months, you know, is why it's wild thinking about that. And so with this, it's been the continuation of that journey. It's okay, so after the move, how's it been? That's really, I mean, if you really want to know what I've been going through and the highs and the lows and all of it, like this is telling you, like, this is my diary right here, man. You know, I'm opening up to you and being as real as I can. And that's what this is. This is the journey I've been on in the last year.
Amen, bro. But you're gonna be playing Learning to Love, and Learning to Love is actually the song that you're gonna be able to download for free just by clicking on the link attached to this video, and you'll be able to go and sign up and download the studio version of this song. And tell us a little about Learning to Love. You're gonna give us an acoustic version of it.
Yes, yeah. So learning to love like you. I hope it's super simple. Just saying, I am going to get it wrong some days. I'm going to get it wrong 10 times in a day some days. But seriously, the only thing that's going to matter, like when whatever last date I have on this earth comes, all it's going to matter is, have I learned to love like him? Have I been a part of his kingdom enough to know how to love other people well and to show them him? That's all it's about. And so it literally starts out, first line of this song is, I've got a lot to learn about this thing called living, you know, like it's true. Like no matter where you're at, man, you still have a lot to learn, you know, and that's his whole, the graciousness of God to keep wanting to teach us, even when we are defiant sometimes, when we're rebellious sometimes. It's kind of that, just, you know, I do have a lot to learn, but what I have to learn is to love like you and to show people that. So that is the simplicity of what this song is about.
Awesome, man. Well, take it away.
All right.
Got a lot to learn about this thing called living. It's my only turn, wanna make it something. Wanna make a change, need an evolution. Remedy's got a name. You're the revolution, got me upside down, turning this human nature inside out, changing my point of view. Take this life, I'm giving you my future. I'm learning to love like you. Oh, 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 oh. I'm learning to love like you. Oh, oh, oh. Love became a verb spoken, not creation. Mercy came to serve sick hearts in rebellion, yeah. Some may find it strange, you're my resolution. Remedy's got a name. You're the revolution, got me upside down, turning this human nature inside out, changing my point of view. Take this life, I'm giving you my future. I'm learning to love like you. Oh, 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 oh. I'm learning to love like you. Remedy's got a name. Remedy's got a name. Remedy's got a name. Remedy's got a name. I said Remedy's got a name. Remedy's got a name. Remedy's got a name. You're the revolution. You're the revolution. Got me upside down, turned into human nature. Inside out, changing my point of view. Take this life, I'm giving you my future. Oh, I'm learning to love like you. Learning to love like you. Upside down, turning this human nature. Inside out, changing my point of view. Take this life, I'm giving you my future. Oh, I'm learning to love like you. Oh, oh, whoa, oh, oh, whoa. Oh, I'm learning to love like you. Oh, oh, whoa, oh, oh, whoa. Lord, I'm learning to love like you. Oh, oh, whoa.
Woo! Thank you, Jerry. Man, and I'm sorry, I called that learning to love earlier, but I think it's learning to love like you. I think what it was because you had it in the little parentheses there. So whatever those things are, the brackets. But I really encourage you guys to go and download the studio version of this. It's got some real great production going on in there. The acoustic version is fantastic, and you're just going to be blown away by what he did on the studio version as well. So depending on where you're watching this, if you're watching on YouTube, the link's below. If you're watching it on Facebook, the link's probably right above. But you can go and you can actually join up on Jerry Fee's music fan email list, and you'll get the free download there as well. Jerry, thanks, man. Dude, that was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. And you coming on, and you guys are going to hear a bit more from Jerry in the coming weeks and months. He's going to be doing some stuff here with us at His Way Worship, which we're real excited about, and sharing more of his story with you guys through his music, and that's really cool, man.
Thanks so much, Tracy. Appreciate it, man.
You got it, and we'll be talking soon, buddy.